Just as everyone living with dementia has a different experience, every care partner has a different journey. Today we're going to visit with Edith Stein. Edith's husband was diagnosed with dementia. After decades of marriage, Edith unknowingly began her journey as a care partner while wondering what was happening with her husband. Today she's going to share with us her story. Edith, thank you so much for having me here today. I really appreciate it. Could you tell me, what does being a care partner mean to you?
It can mean many things. First of all, be available to the person that needs your care. And also to learn about the illness that the person suffers from, so that you are able to care for them in the right and the proper way, and avail yourself to any help that is out there for a care person.
Excellent. That's great advice.
Yeah.
Overall, how would you describe your experience of being a care partner? What was it like for you?
Well, it was, in the beginning, extremely difficult for me because I didn't know what was happening to my husband. He basically showed early signs in 2005, and in 2007 we finally had a diagnosis.
Did you reach out for help at all?
I went to the Alzheimer Society and had an individual interview at the time, and the facilitator who met with me was very helpful in describing what goes on in the brain of a person with dementia. And I could see why certain things were happening with my husband, and I found that quite helpful. But we managed quite well. He became very possessive and very controlling after that, and I had to deal with that, but we managed.
So what was going through your mind before you got the diagnosis?
It was the change in personality that really struck me as very obvious. However, I ascribed it to aging.
Yeah.
I became a little impatient with him because we did everything together. We traveled together, we entertained, we visited, and suddenly there was this resistance to anything that was happening. I don't want to, I don't feel like it. So I would say, what's the matter with you? You always used to enjoy those things. Couldn't explain it. Anyway, and then one day in June of 2009, we took a trip into the country, and I noticed that he kept veering to the right, and my husband was a very disciplined driver, always. And I said, I think I should take over the driving because there's something happening with you. Oh, no, I'm fine. And he really talked nonsense, to tell you the truth. I don't want to go into details, but anyway, so we were on the highway south towards Calgary, and the normal turn of that we took, he missed. So I said to him, Bob, you just missed our turn off. And without thinking, he made a U-turn through the median.
Oh my goodness.
It was horrible. And I was on the phone to my son. I let out a big scream.
Yeah.
The reason I called my son is I said to him, you have to talk sense into your dad.
Yeah.
That was on the 1st. On the 11th of that month, he was hospitalized for 2 months, never came home. So my caregiving, in a sense that I needed to be there 24 hours a day, stopped at that point.
I see.
And he was placed in that was June 2011, and he was placed in August of 2011.
So once you had that diagnosis then, how did things change?
Ran the gamut of symptoms. Paranoia, delusions, extreme jealousy, extreme possessiveness. How should I say, it built some resentment in me because it wasn't my usual life. But I then knew that it wasn't Bob, but the illness that, caused this strange behavior. And the reason he was admitted was he became aggressive.
Yeah.
Very, very sad, because he was a gentleman.
Oh. Can you tell me about the gamut of emotions that you went through this process? It must have been really difficult.
There was extreme fear because of certain aggressive behavior my husband displayed, which was not his usual behavior. I became resentful because it really curtailed my freedom. My husband had a long retirement, which we thoroughly enjoyed, and we did everything together, but I still had my activities outside of our marriage and relationship. And it was never an issue, but it became a big issue. So I resented being told what I should do and could do and no longer was able to do. Sadness.
Yeah.
It's indescribable because you have all that history and then suddenly things change so drastically.
Yeah.
So you're sad, and as I was mentioning, the losses that come with the disease, not just losing your partner as you knew him, and as we related to one another, but all the things that were pleasurable to us and that we shared, joy of gardening and joy of the outdoors, and it was very, very hard. But the more I understood the disease, and I did avail myself of the support group at the Alzheimer Society, which I found extremely helpful because we talked to people that experienced the same emotion and the same loss, and we could share that. And I found it very helpful to be honest, which I didn't think I could be with my family.
Yeah.
Because I had some thoughts that were not very nice.
Of course.
At times. and I was able to talk about it, and it made it easier.
Yeah.
And as time went on, we spent some wonderful days together.
Oh, yeah?
Wonderful, but you see, I didn't have him at home. So I had my mornings, and in the afternoon I could go out and really enjoyed being with him.
So what were some of those changes of how you felt towards your husband and your relationship before the diagnosis and then after the diagnosis and forward from there?
Like my daughter-in-law, when I felt a few frustrations, my daughter-in-law had experienced the illness with her mom, and she said to me, "Mom, the love will return," and it did.
Oh.
And I became very patient. I surprised myself because I was generally very quick and very, let's do. And I became amazingly patient with my husband. But I think what made it easy was the fact that he was in a care facility.
Yeah.
I had these breaks that I didn't have prior to Bob being placed, you know. So it wasn't any longer a 24-hour kind of around-the-clock caretaking. And yeah.
What other changes went on in your life that you had to get used to?
My life changed again because now I had to, well, I sold the family home, I moved into a condo. Suddenly I had time on my hand, and
Yeah.
you miss them, even though it is a long goodbye. It's a slow losing them. When the time comes that they do, it's still hard.
Yeah, of course.
And but we had good years together. We did.
Yeah. At the end of the day, when you had time to reflect, what were your thoughts?
If we had a good day, I certainly felt better. If it happened to be a day where he had difficulty, like they talk about sundowning, sometimes towards the end of the afternoon, he would become, well, there would be marked changes in his mood and in his behavior. Then the trip home was more sad, more upsetting.
Yeah.
And my thoughts would be, I can't do it another day. It's just too hard. And then I had to think about families who had their loved ones at home around the clock. And sort of a feeling of relief would come over me in a way. You know, I would be grateful that Bob was living where he was, because the care was good and the surroundings were lovely, and it was, you know, and if I felt really, really bad, I would go home and just write a few page or so in my diary, getting sort of releasing my feelings about not being able to do it again another day. And then go to bed, have a good sleep, and the next day I'd be ready to go.
Oh.
I was. I just, yeah, I looked forward to it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And using a diary, what a great idea.
Yeah. It just helped me to kind of push aside these thoughts of, especially when Bob got a little aggressive, and not physically, but verbally, you know.
And when you had time outside that role as a care partner, what did you do with that time for yourself, to take care of yourself?
I picked up my subscriptions to the theater. I have a very, very nice group of friends. We've known one another since 1950, and we go to the park every Tuesday for a picnic. And of course I kept that up whenever I could.
Yeah.
I would rush home and then rush to Emily Murphy Park, and I'm still part of that group, and I tell them how fortunate I am, because they are all couples still.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Edith. I'm sure it'll help a lot of people. Thank you for your openness and generosity.
You're
Thank
very
you.
welcome.